Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the reality of education and the difference. Because one of the brothers asked me about subhanallah about Ijazahs and the Isnad process. Alright? So I want to say this. In this day and time, there's different type of Ijazahs. Right? They have what's called a listening Ijazah, right? Where you basically, this is proof that you sat down with a qualified person and listened to them go over a book in detail. Sometimes they just generally give those for people just to participate, right? A listening ijazah. Some people may call it a ijazah of completion, but see, sometimes a ijazah of completion can be, if you go through an ijazah course, right, and you don't pass to where you can get the teaching ijazah, they'll give you what's like you completed the class, right? But not enough to where they're giving you a ijazah where you're qualified to teach the class. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me see something. 1 second. I could show one. Hold on. 1 second. It might not be able to show through here. 1 second. Because I have some of both, right? So, okay. Right here. Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah thing. I don't know if it's going to show. It's probably going to. Yeah, see, I can see that's too much light. I can see a little bit right there. I don't know how much it's going to show. But see where it's saying Ijazah Sama? Maybe if I turn some of that light off. So basically, you'll see like it's a whole row of them. This is probably like 100 and something. But this one right here is mine. Let me blow it up. Okay. So let me see if it'll come. Hold on. So right there where you see it says Yasin Abdullah, some of it is showing. Alright. So this is what they refer to as a listening ijazah. And you can see it got the Arabic. So the reason why it's in a row, because the way we did it, they got them all, so we had to go get ours, our personal one, because they overseas. So like if you're not there overseas where you get your ijazah, you can go print it and you can print it out yourself. So wallahi, this one is mine, right? This is a listening ijazah. Now let me show you what it says in a listening ijazah, right? This is to certify that Yasin Abdul Alim listen to the entire recitation or recital of Madhum al-Qawaid al-Fiqhiyah that was read live via Zoom on Saturday, November the 19th, 2022. So this was close to 3 years ago, right? In 2022. This is a poem, but it's about fiqh, and it break down different things about fiqh. Very important poem, right? So then it comes in and say, I hereby grant Yasin Abdul Alim, a connected chain, although I'm not on it, and this is why I want a connected chain traced back to the author of this text, right? Sheikh Abdul Rahman Ibn Nasir Sa'di, right? In which I obtained from Sheikh Khalid bin Ali al-Mushaki. I know I said that wrong because I'm looking at it in English anyway. But then it says, this is not a tazkiyah nor a license to teach the text. Now, but this was a listening ijazah from the jump. It wasn't like where we had to go through exams or like we couldn't complete it. This was made just for a listening ijazah. So that's why they put in there, it's not for anybody who went through it to teach it, but it do certify they did sit with someone, and this individual right here is working on their PhD in the University of Mecca. All right, so they already have a master's degree. So, and it says, I advise the students to observe taqwa of Allah wherever they may be, learn and hold firm to the fundamental beliefs of Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, be sincere and diligent in seeking Islamic knowledge, implementing it, spreading it to others, and remaining patient with the harms that they will face in these matters. May Allah grant this student success in this life and the next. Ameen. Then at the bottom, it has everything in Arabic. So this is what a listening ijazah looks like, right? So I have more though, and then to show you, but I have some I have teaching ijazahs, I have ijazahs of completion, and I'm gonna be honest, I passed the class, like, okay, I got one on 40 hadith for Nawawi, right? But we had to memorize all 40 hadiths with the isnad and repeat it back. So you have to teach it back to the instructor from memory. All right, no book in your hand. Now, and you're allowed to make 3 mistakes. And I'm going to be honest, wallahi, I had some other classes and stuff going on, so I intentionally didn't try to memorize all 40 hadiths with all the isnad and then to teach it back to them. So I got an ijazah of completion. I completed the class. I passed the class, right? But being that I didn't memorize it, the whole 40 hadith for Nawawi with the isnads, being that I didn't memorize it, then I didn't get the teaching ijazah. Okay? So, let me close this out. Let me see something. So, when a brother was asking me about an isnad, so it could be tricky because some people will be like, okay, we're going to issue you out an ijazah with the isnad, but you don't know who's on the isnad before you, and then who's on the isnad before him, until the isnad goes all the way up to a direct teacher. So, and then they'll just tell you that you on the isnad, and then they'll give you they might give you a little certificate, but you don't know who's really actually who's on the isnad before you. Is it really connected all the way to, like, if it's hadith, is it connected all the way up to the Rasul? If it's in a particular book, let's say for instance it's a book by Abdul Wahab. When it comes to Abdul Wahab, it starts with him. Then somebody he taught the book, and then that person explained the book to him and taught it to where Abdul Wahab said, "You're proficient. You can teach this book to others, so I'm going to give you a ijazah, a qualification, a license, a certificate, a diploma to say you can teach my book." Then when that person went and taught somebody else, okay, then that person went and taught somebody else, and then he gave him an ijazah connected to him while he's connected to Abdul Wahab. So somebody might tell you, hey, here goes a ijazah, you attached to the isnad, but where's the isnad going all the way up to Abdul Wahab? Do you even have any dalil that Abdul Wahab taught this book to people and issued ijazahs for them to teach it to other people? Or was it just a book he wrote? And then other people read the book, and then as time went on, some people who read the book or may have learned it from a scholar, and then they started teaching classes or giving a class, and they may have they may publish the book on their own, translated and published it, right? And then they're going to charge you $15, $20 to come listen, or to get in this conference, or to get in this thing, and then at the end we're going to give you a ijazah to the isnad. But is there an isnad all the way up to Ibn Taymiyyah or Abdul Wahab? Just like how I was saying, this is an isnad directly to the person who wrote the book. Not like it's just a listening ijazah, right? It don't even prove if I comprehend it enough, right? So you have more than one type of ijazah. And I'm only saying that because I'm just going to be honest. I see people get hustled. And I say, if they're attaching you to an isnad and they say this is a book by Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, then it should be a legitimate isnad that goes all the way up to Ibn Qayyim. You understand? Like, let's write on the board a little bit, because I want people to understand. For the new shahadas, they not really sure like what's to an isnad. So we're gonna do it like this. We're going to say Rasulullah. So let's say he taught a group. In this group, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you got 5 people. They learned from him directly, but he checked their knowledge where they approved of. And then this one person taught 3 people. He taught 3 people. He taught 3 people, but they all said they qualified to teach this. Then it could be the Rasul in a different subject matter where he taught 1 person, or he narrated a hadith to 1 person, and then this 1 person went and narrated it to a group of 7 people. So then their name is in the isnad connected to the Rasul. So sometimes you may have somebody telling you they're giving you an ijazah with an isnad and this and that, but it may not be connected to Ibn Taymiyyah. It may not be connected to Imam Shafi'i. It may not been something where ijazahs was issued out. It could have just been a book that they wrote. And then 200-300 years later, somebody else read the book, and now they set up a way to where they could print out some certificates, and then you pay, and then they give you one and tell you your name on the isnad. And then you go for it because you don't understand the isnad process. So that's one thing that people need to understand. So like with certain things you need to know what like an ijazah is. Like for instance, I got the ijazah in ijazah of completion. I passed Imam An-Nawawi's 40 hadith of An-Nawawi, so I got an ijazah of completion in that. But you won't see me on here trying to teach 40 hadith of Imam An-Nawawi. Then I could have been a person who read 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. I'm not going to come calling myself trying to teach you 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. Now I might do something and go to a book because, like with me, the way that I try to do things, and like people who follow along, like I say, I understand the reality. Everybody is not going to go try to learn Arabic. Alright? And some people might try, but it might be difficult and they just don't get it. So when I'm generally showing some dalil, I'm going to show where you can go get it. I might use Tafsir Sa'di, read the English, because you could pull Tafsir Sa'di up right on a PDF on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, and then you could go and I'll say what page it is, what ayat it is, what verses it is, what ayat, so you can go look at that and see what it is in English. I may use Imam Muslim book, Imam Sahih Muslim, with the explanation of Imam Nawawi or whoever I use, but I'm going to say what it is because this is something that you can go look at. I can easily get in front of you and use some big words and say Ibn Qayyim said and use a little bit of Arabic, but Ibn Qayyim may not have said that. And then you can't go look. One, you don't know what book it came from. You don't know if it was an independent statement. You don't even know if it could have been 1,000 scholars that said that statement is incorrect. You don't know how to go look. So then what I'm going to give you, there's ijma on these things because it's going to come from tafsirs, it's going to come from hadiths, and I'm going to do it in a way where you can go look for yourself. Because because you got to understand the reality of what's real education and what's not. And then you got to understand the reality. Sometimes you got to use a little bit of common sense, right? If I want to learn a madhab, which I'm about to do, the person who's teaching the class has a master's degree and they're working on a PhD. Okay? They have a master's degree, so through scholars, through the university, their education, their level of education has been stamped by scholars when they graduate. When you go to the university level, wherever your university is, especially in a Medina or a Mecca, to graduate, you have to go sit in a room of scholars. And you have to write a thesis, right? You have to debate them while they try to tear it down, trick you, tangle you up, force you to prove all type of dalil. So you have to be approved by scholars to even get your degree. Alright? So we're going to use a common sense level. Would it be better to learn from somebody whose knowledge was approved and tested and prodded by a number of scholars? And sometimes they have to go through maybe 3 defenses. You come up once, you get attacked. Come back the next day, some more scholars, you get attacked. From different angles, from different points. Would it be better to learn from somebody who went through that and passed with proficiency, or somebody who hasn't even read the book completely, but they have it and they know a little bit of Arabic? Who is it better to learn from? Who is it better to learn from? You understand? When you haven't really went through the education process, you won't understand these things until you go through it. You understand? It's almost like you have somebody who go to school to become an English teacher, and they proficient in teaching high school level English, but not college level. But a person who's on a college level of teaching English, they can teach you English a little bit better on the 9th grade level or 10th grade level because they know what you got to look for in college, so they can prepare you for the college level and give you jewels that the person who only know how to teach on a high school level don't have because they haven't learned how to teach on a college level yet. Just like how I said in one of the videos, a person with a bachelor's degree in hadith, they may go through and say something and this and that and say, okay, this is haram. But a person with a master's degree, a level higher than him, will say, no, they made a mistake. It's actually makruh because they're levels above what they know. So then imagine the person who's not even there. What mistakes will they have? And if there's nobody else around that has that level of knowledge or level of intellect, there's nobody around to correct them. And then if your education only comes from this, then it's going to be stifled. And you can see the difference in teaching. So in the reality of education, and I won't say self-educated, there's a lot of avenues to get education right in your home. But people turn people away from it. But I'm going to tell you something. You think about for individuals who come from the street, who come from you come from that element, right? Everybody started in school somewhere. We talking about Head Start, kindergarten, whether you had a parent who didn't care, so you missed a lot of school, but everybody started in school somewhere. All right? So when you get to the high school level, if you have people around you who went to college and they became successful and they did something with their degree, they talk to you about staying in school and getting an education. But the ones who was in the streets, who may feel like they had some street success, right? What they teach you? You don't need school. You don't need that to get ahead. Come out here and chase that. You don't need all that. That's just a piece of paper. You got basic reading. You got basic math. You can count money. You can read this. You don't need that. Come out here and get this. One leads to a life that's decent, prosperous, that's functional, that's civilized within society. The next life, you done left school, now you done got shot, you done shot somebody, you've been robbed, you done robbed somebody, you done went to the penitentiary, ain't no telling what you had to go through in there, whether it's stuff done to you or stuff you done to people. Not every single story, but on averages, the people who talked into leaving school and not taking school serious, they went through some serious hardships. And my point is, what type of educated people who sit with scholars, who went through universities, is going to say degrees don't matter? You don't have to go to a university to get this. Just use somebody like me as a go-between. I'm the medium. I'm your access to what the scholars say. But you don't even know enough to know whether that person is access to a scholar. You don't know. It could preach, we got to listen to the ulama, but at the same time, these individuals won't make sure that you're proficient in Arabic language where you can listen to the scholars for yourself. They're your go-between. You don't know, you can't tell the difference in what they're teaching, if they're teaching it correct, because the reality of education in the community has been turned into something else. It's turning into personalities. It's personality over education. And I'm not talking about a particular group. We can go all the way down. We can go all the way back to, I'm not saying it's this Wharf Dean, but people loved Wharf Dean so much that they will reject the people who had the real education. Whatever they have to cloak it under. That's those Arab scholars. That doesn't work for black people in the ghetto. Whatever they have to put it under. Then your next group, you're going to worship the personality instead of the real education. But the people who have the real education, those are the ones who rise above all of the nonsense. It's been flipped upside down. The actual teachers, the actual people with the qualifications, they hate it on. But it's just like in your high school level. The people who went on to college and was doing their thing, they got hated on by the street people that didn't have no education. Oh man, they nerds. They goofy. We could just thug them out of their position. Oh man, don't listen to him, man. We don't care that he went to Harvard and he's proficient at being a lawyer. Why spend all that money for him to fight your case when my man's them, they was the lawyer in penitentiary. They stayed in the law library. And I be like this. Y'all ever notice, man, those penitentiary lawyers always advising somebody into 25 years? Not, yeah, man, I stay in the library. Man, a law library, this and that. Or you can go in there and read those books for yourself. And then next thing you know, somebody listen to them. They offer them 7 years plea deal on something they caught red-handed in. And they sit up and listen to some penitentiary lawyer dude or some dude on the streets who came out of it. Man, I was a law library. And then you end up with 35 years. You could beat that. See, all you got to do is use this and get the etymology and the black law books. And next thing you know, you're sitting around with 35 years in a law library trying to figure out how to get appeal, tricking the next young dude. But the person who told them to stay in school and go to college and become a real lawyer, I don't nobody want to hear that. That's the dummy. That's what's done happen in the Ummah. But until you get educated, you won't know it. You won't know it. Just like the individuals in the streets who've been shot, stabbed, killed, been in prison, cleaning up people's bedrooms and massaging shoulders and all the stuff that they can't tell nobody else about. They the only ones that know everything. But when you want to talk about stocks, when you want to talk about bonds, when you want to talk about real lawyer stuff, you can't talk to them about it. That's how it is with real Islamic education. When it comes to spewing jargon and talking about this and talking about that, it's some people that's cool at it. But when you start talking about that real deen, they got to get to the back of the bus. But they don't know it. And you don't know it because this is your source of education. Just like I said, I'm not knocking Wharf Dean. I'm not saying them brothers not serious about Islam. I'm not saying they don't love Allah. I'm not saying they don't love Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the reality is, when you start talking to them about real fiqh that came from Quran to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and passed down, is Arab stuff. But if Wardeen said you don't have to cover, women don't have to cover when they with their husbands, when they go to the masjid, all they got to do is this, that, that's fiqh to them. But until you educated, you're not going to know the difference if this is all that you heard. You really might be on the opposite of what Islam tells you. And see, like me saying this right here, I'm going to show y'all a book. Now, although it does say the International Islamic University of Malaysia, this is a college level book. I'm not going to say the science. We're just going to leave it at hadith, right? But where you see it says the methodology of learning and evaluating hadith in the first century of Islam. Now I could pick this up and read it by myself. But if I haven't been through the thing, and then I could tell you what's in it, I can read it to you, have you sit in front of me and bust it open, and then just read it to you. Whether I understand it, whether I agree with it, I can throw Sheikh on my name, I can throw Ustad on my name, I can make up a list and put my name on it, and then put a thing out there. Y'all can't listen to anybody unless their name is on this list. So now, in reality, you only listening to me because you think you have to. If you listen to anybody outside of me, you're sinful. You're doing wrong. That's why, like I said, when you overseas, there's thousands of scholars. Right? If you choose to listen to these ones instead of this one, there's no harm in that. It happens all the time. Because they're all scholars. People might put this scholar on the list. He's a scholar of fiqh. You look at the list, okay, these are scholars of fiqh. There's no scholars of hadith on here. I need to go sit with the scholars of hadith. Because, see, some people think all scholars is just, they're all scholars, which they are scholars, but he might be a scholar of fiqh. He might be a scholar in the Hanafi madhab. But this is who you have on your list. I need somebody who's a scholar of hadith because I'm dealing with hadith. So now if I go over here and listen to these scholars of hadith, y'all don't have a scholar of hadith on your list. You understand? Oh, well, no. That's not allowed. But it's thousands of scholars. People go to where they have to go to get the benefit that they need. If your name wasn't on that list, I probably wouldn't listen to you. And what happens is, sometimes when people step outside that list and get to listening to the people that they shouldn't, they start liking them people that they shouldn't like even more. But it go against what's instilled in them. I can't let them know that I listen to these people. But this is just the reality. You don't have no, okay, cool, you got this student, you got this student. I'm looking at the list. Alhamdulillah. Where's the student of Sharia? Where's the student of Hadith? Okay, you got a student of Dawah. He got a Dawah degree. He got a bachelor's in Dawah. Okay, you got this one. He got a bachelor's degree in fiqh. Where's the student at who got the bachelor's or the master's in Sharia? Where he at? You don't have one. You understand? Where's the one who has the bachelor's or has the master's in theology, which is Aqidah? Where he at? You don't have one on here. So I got to go, if I'm dealing with Aqidah, I got to go get one from Aqidah. And then you never went anywhere and learned any of this. But, like I said in the beginning, what's the better chances? Me listening to the person who got the bachelor's degree or the person who don't have anything or not even an Ijazah in a book like this? When you understand education, you will know better. So like even with this, and this is the beauty, because not only is this the methodology of learning and evaluating hadith, you could take the methodologies from this throughout your own being. It helps you learn to investigate so-called rulings, so-called statements where people say this person made that statement. Because then you could turn around and say, hold on, this person never met that person. How he get a personal statement from him And he never met that person. What book did he say that was in? Then you go read the book and say, hold on, this statement ain't in that book. Where'd he get that from? Because it teaches you how to go through all of that to where you can look at it. Not just this, it's books that go with it. So like right here, to start it off, now this is college level, believe it or not. They even use it to teach in the Islamic University of Malaysia. That ain't where I went, okay? The person who I deal with, everybody I deal with, they all have a degree, and the ones that I still deal with, they're still in school. Unless I'm dealing with them on some lower level of Quran recitation or some Arabic language. Because some of them just native speakers and who sat with a scholar, like a scholar might have been their grandfather as kids. Basically, they came up memorizing Quran. But when it comes to a science, and the Arabic is their tongue, this is something they've been doing in Egypt, or this is something they've been doing here probably since they were 7 years old. But when it comes to a science, everybody I deal with has at least a bachelor's. Right now, everybody is a master on up. Everybody. Or they're masters or above. Everybody. Now, if you have somebody who's has a master's degree from we're just going to say the University of Medina. They have a master's degree in hadith, but they still got all their books and everything that they passed and everything that they was approved of on a bachelor's level. If you learning from them directly from those books and your knowledge is tested, it's just like you learning in the university. It's just like you're a student of the same university from a person who's qualified to teach what they learned from the university. Just like here in America, somebody graduated with a PhD in mathematics from the University of New York. But they come to a high school in Chicago and then they teaching in the high school of Chicago, but they're teaching you what they learned in the University of New York. At the same time, preparing you, if you go to a college level math, you can walk through it because I could prepare you for it. That's the part that people don't grasp because they use the individuals that tear down everything that anybody is doing when they ain't done nothing. When they ain't done nothing. So like, just to show you an example. So right here, it'll go through the methodology of learning and evaluating hadith during the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad. This is during the lifetime. But it's a whole science. Then you come to your next section, the methodology of learning and evaluating hadith after the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Two different methodologies. Alright? So then when you come to certain sections, right, where you see where like this one right here, seizing the appropriate times for sessions of hadith, right? Scholars at the time used to seize opportunities in times that were suitable for holding their sessions and advising their students to do the same. In the books of hadith, one encounters several statements on the same subject. So now it teaches you when you start to see different statements, like you see 50 statements about Salah, but they all different. Let's say you in love with the person who has a particular statement, but it's wrong, it's weak, it's da'if. He might be the imam of a madhab. He might be your favorite personality. So you take that one individual statement instead of looking at them all. From this thing that you learned though, okay, cool. people going with this ruling? Is it ijma on that ruling? Okay, this one scholar said that, but him making that statement, what is it based off of? If he based that statement off of somebody else doing an analogy just to get people to understand. And you see, just like with me, I do it all the time. Just like how I may break down how people in the streets get you to walk away from school. People who went to college and became successful at it, they try to keep you in school. That's just an analogy. That not means every last person, this happens to everybody on every single level. But it's an analogy to get you to understand. A person can't take that analogy and make a 100% ruling and say, I am making this ruling based off of that analogy. Because that analogy is true in theory. And it does happen often. But some people can listen and be like, hey, that ain't my experience. But they might not know no real street people. A street person to them might be somebody who skipped school and smoked weed and played PlayStation all day. Depending on what generation they came from. They might not be from that same element based off of different timelines. So this is why you can't do certain things off of an analogy. You can form an opinion, an analogy based off of an analogy that you took, but you can't force that on the people. Because what if it's a mistake? This is what you start to learn when you learn to, if you're learning to evaluate hadith, then what are you learning to evaluate? The deen. Because the deen is based off of what? Quran and hadith. The hadiths ain't nothing but the Quran in situations. Quran say make wudu. When you make wudu, these is the body parts you use. Hadith say this is exactly how you do it. It's the Quran in actions. So when you learn to evaluate the hadith, you learn to evaluate the whole deen. These rulings, this person's statements, this, that, and the third. Like this right here, standards of criticism, right? Standards of criticism of transmissions, right? As one can identify several principles regarding the transmissions of hadith, it is also possible to pick out a number of standards for investigating the authenticity of hadiths, right? A procedure which is regarded by, naming a particular scholar from the past, right, as an equivalent to half of knowledge. All right? Investigating the authenticity of hadith, a procedure which is regarded by a particular scholar. So this don't make it 100%. But this particular scholar, he is under the opinion it is an equivalent to half of knowledge. Why is it equivalent of half of knowledge to him? Because investigating the authenticity of the deen, then you know what's authentic in the deen. Knowing is half the battle. So that's half of knowledge. Quran is what's the other half? It's Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. Quran and Hadith go hand in hand. Some people can't grasp that. Right? Then as it continues, the following section is devoted to identifying the basic standards which are applied or pointed out by scholars of Hadith in the first century of Islam. The Salaf and then some. This is the methodology of the Salaf. But again, this science extends to the entire deen. Some people don't even know to investigate, to look into anything. Why? Because we love personalities. this person said it, it's the haq, no matter what. I don't care what you say, even if they made it up. Even if they made it up, it could be a person, like I say. You may came into Islam 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Now this person may have sheikh on their name. They might actually look like a sheikh, but they may have tried to go to the University of Medina or Mecca and flunked out. They may have tried to sit with some scholars, but don't have not one teaching ijazah. If they sat in front of some scholars, like what it takes to get your degree, and got prodded, they wouldn't even pass. But because you haven't been around long enough, or you haven't looked at knowledge long enough, and this person has sheikh on their name, and they may look like one in appearance, you're going to take everything that they say, especially if the gun is on you and saying, these is the only people you can listen to. Because you might not have enough to say, I'm studying fiqh. Which one of these is a scholar of fiqh? I don't want to go learn the science of fiqh from somebody that has a dawah degree. They may have a little bit of knowledge and they may be able to tell me like some fiqh terminology. Are you that? No, you're not. But you gonna put this thing on me, and you the only person I can listen to? Cause you don't know no better, see? You don't know no better. And see, this is just to give a small example to show. And like I say, although yes, this is in English, because I'm gonna show people in English where they can go to and see what I'm saying. I could have just made up a whole bunch of jargon and said Sheikh Fulan said, and threw out some big Arabic words that you don't even have a clue what they mean, but it makes me sound overeducated. Sometimes you got to meet people where they at. And again, this is from the Islamic University, where they use this particular copy. But this is from a particular science that's in Hadith, which I won't dare name. Some people might have a clue, which I won't dare name because people misuse the term of this science. Okay? But this is a university level book, which, yes, I went through with a teacher that had a master. Well, when I went through with them, they actually have a PhD now. But they had a master's degree when we went through this. And it wasn't just individually me, it was a whole class. And yes, alhamdulillah, it's a class that I passed. But I won't sit on here, y'all won't see me sitting down and be like, let me teach y'all the methodology of hadith. Let me sit down and teach y'all this and this, that, and the third. Which I won't say if I'm qualified to teach it or not, but I can come through and point out something to show when you go through these steps, you know how to analyze the deen. You know how to analyze statements. You know how to go through and say, hold on. Like, what? What did he just say? Hold on, that don't sound right. You know how to recognize it, not just being like, oh, the sheikh said it. It's the haq. You don't listen to the sheikh. You actually listening to somebody who has a master's degree in Sharia. You off it. But I'm learning Sharia for somebody with a master's degree in Sharia. You got to understand the reality of education. And what's actually teaching and what isn't, and understanding what's actually a class as a lecture. Because another analogy, coming up, everybody wanted to be rappers, right? And then some people would have like, well, they used to have these little beats, these little I'm talking about way back in the day, where they would get these programs called Fruity Loops, and they would download Fruity Loops into their computer, and then you can have this thing where you can kind of make these generic beats on your computer. But because people have Fruity Loops on their computer and may have a microphone, but it's in their bedroom next to their bed and everything, when they be on the phone with people, they be like, man, what you on? Nothing, over here in the studio. Man, y'all want to get together, man, and go to the studio? In reality, that's not a studio. That's your bedroom with a computer in it. Yeah, you able to do certain things. So just like some of these things, man, brother, you want to go to the class? That's not no class. It's a lecture. A class involves, when you go to class in elementary, middle school, high school, what does that class consist of? A teacher using one of these, whether it's with chalk, this, or maybe new days they using tablets and different stuff, but they doing it through the tablet. Then you sit in that class and you have a time where you read the lesson, then you quizzed on that lesson, then you have some homework. You have some homework Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You do your homework, then that next week on Thursday you have a small test to see if you can pass that information that was given to you. That's a class. If you're not going through that process, you're not in no class. But it sounds good, it's amped up. Man, we finna go to the brother class. That's a lesson. That's a dars. You understand? Then it's a difference between me, a person teaching you something, and then a person reading a book to you. You don't even know if the person even read that book before. They may have just got it and like what the subject matter is, and they just read, they learning from it, finding out information from it as they reading to you. And I'm saying, I'm able to say this because when I'm talking about stuff, best believe it's things that I seen with my own eyes people do. Yeah. Yeah. And alhamdulillah, some people, they got to do what they got to do, and they just doing their best to move the community forward. So it's alhamdulillah, and then there's certain things that is getting in there. Yeah, but if you just want to be the basic, I just want to pray, I just want to fast, and I just want to have some good character. I don't really want to learn all that stuff. You have Muslims who don't really want to learn. So they have to do, even though they don't teach this principle, which is taqleed, blind following. Oh, they blind following the madhabs. But the people you just told that to is blind following you. But you're going to be careful how you talk about taqleed, because it's going to go against the principles that you make money off of. See? It goes against the principles that you make money off of, because this is what you do for a living. I can't go too heavy on taqleed because they might stop blind following me. And if they actually get into and get to investigating, then they might find out, man, you hear what he said? And then some of them might get sophisticated and do this. Da 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 da. And now they stuck in, they might have to talk slick, see? They might have to talk slick, see? And don't think this is geared towards one particular group. This is the reality of a lot of what's going on. People from India, people from certain Arabias, Jordan, Yemen, that done came over here, and they get the cook bars at your masjid. They may bring somebody in, you know, it's a Ramadan dinner, and they done brought a speaker in, and because they brought them in, and they tablighi, and this is one of their tablighi favorites, and then you sitting up there, and you don't even know if it's tablighi, it's just all Islam to you. I don't care to learn. I'm here to blind follow. Whatever y'all doing, I'm doing. And then that's why I like certain groups. You have to take on their personality to be a part of it. Oh, we can't listen to this person? All right, cool. I ain't going to listen to them either. Well, we can't go to these masjids. But it ain't no other masjids in my city. Well, figure it out or you off it. But it might be somebody with a PhD in Aqidah. Just like look at this narrative. And then I'm going to show y'all a couple of little things that can help y'all get through some different books that you can use for a form of self-study, but it's still going to be general, because a teacher can extract things that you're going to miss when you haven't went through these steps. But it'll still help you get better. Right? Imagine this. You got a person who's a student in the University of, we're going to say, Medina. In the University of Medina. Scholars have seen them sit in the room doing their defense and cry and say, this person is a scholar already. He's already on a scholar level. Shed tears at how this person is kicking it. Scholars. Then these scholars go and chill with the committee of scholars and say, let's go get that person and give him a chair in the Prophet's masjid. The Prophet's masjid in Medina. And then go talk to him and say, we're considering somebody to give them a chair in the Prophet masjid, but we want them fluent in English, because when a lot of the people who's English speakers come to make Hajj, come to make Umrah, come to visit Medina, and they want to come to the Prophet Masjid, there's nobody there for them to sit and listen to, because all these other teachers is speaking in Arabic or speaking in an African tongue or speaking in an Asian tongue, but we don't have not an American speaker. And on top of that, this speaker is black. Follow me. And he's African American. That say a whole lot. Cause we not gonna act like African Americans not looked at a certain. African Americans is looked at funny in Africa, by Africans. That's a reality. African Americans is looked at funny everywhere they go on the globe. An African American with a group of scholars who make this decision, and they talk and they looking at some other people, and then they pick this African American person to teach Islam in the Prophet Masjid, starting with Aqidah. But at the same time, while this person is still a student with a chair, not somebody you can come meet and they'll help you learn how to recite Al-Fatiha, who may be a student. No, teaching Islam starting from Aqidah in the Prophet's Masjid. But while this person is teaching this in the Prophet Masjid, chosen by scholars, specifically picked, they didn't go fill out an application. They didn't go say, man, I want to see if I can fill out an application to teach at the Prophet's Masjid. No, they didn't do that. The scholars came and got them and told them, we're considering you. How you feel about it? Well, alhamdulillah. Y'all pick me, I'll do it. Let me think about it, though, because, that could be a lot. I'm still a student. I'm still studying. I still got to get mines up. Thought about it? Yeah, I'll do it. Time go by, they come pick the brother. Now, when you look at this situation, what does that say that the scholars think about this person? But at the same time, while this is going on, you have a group of people in America talking about the scholars hate this person. He's despised by the scholars. He's an imbecile. When he come back for the summer, if you listen to him, you an innovator. While the scholars is picking this brother to teach in the prophet's masjid. If he come teach at this masjid over here, it's a masjid of bid'ah. You can't go there. Everybody in that masjid is a masjid of bid'ah. But he's teaching in the prophet's masjid in Medina. Do that make the prophet masjid in Medina a masjid of bid'ah now? Because he taught there? Even to the point where one brother said, when he was a part of that group, he left, and when he got educated and he left, and I'm going to say his name, Dawood Adib. When they gave this brother a seat in there, Dawood Adib referred to the prophet masjid as a toilet stool. The prophet masjid ain't nothing but a toilet stool. Some you take a number 2 in, a number 1 and a number 2 in, because this brother got a seat in there, because his name's so dirty. But any masjid he teach at is a masjid of bid'ah. But he's teaching in the prophet masjid while he's still a student. He ain't even completely graduated yet. So what do that mean to him? Then when he get to a certain level, they also put him on a committee of scholars. But in America, people think that the scholars despise him because particular personalities put that out there, and then people don't know how to go look. They don't know how to evaluate statements. They don't know how to look into things. And then he's so this, he's so much that. Where your seat at? Where's your chair? Had the scholars ever grouped up and came and picked you to teach anything? Nah, they haven't. Even though you might try to say, use different words, or the scholars gave us tazkiyah. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. But y'all able to use this and throw these terminologies around because y'all know the people that y'all talking to, they don't understand none of that stuff. You gonna tell me a person that's a group of scholars, then now when the word get out, hold on, that brother's a teacher in the prophet masjid. Some don't sound right what y'all talking about. Oh, well, scholars don't choose them to do that. Who choose them? Who choose them? He wasn't chosen by scholars. They got to make up a whole type of lies to debunk that he's in there. You understand? Now you telling me this man, the scholar, seemed worthy to teach in the prophet masjid as a black American, and I can't listen to him, who got a PhD in what they refer to as theology, an Aqidah degree basically, and got a bachelor's in hadith and a PhD in Aqidah. And you telling me I can't listen to him because he's still friends with this one? Because he teach at this masjid? That's foolishness, B. That's foolishness. But a lot of people ain't been around enough to know. But this person, he don't got Sheikh on his name. He don't got Ustad on his name. He don't run around and promote his credentials. And this is just small things what I discussed. Cats can't even put one line on a ruler in comparisons to Islamic academics' accomplishments when it comes to that brother. You ain't even one line on the ruler compared to that brother. But I'm supposed to listen to you? You gonna teach me Aqidah better than a person who got a PhD, a doctor's degree in Aqidah, and a bachelor's degree in Hadith? And we're not even gonna discuss all the scholars and stuff that they sat with and learn other side books and other stuff and summer classes and other things. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. But people not educated. They're not educated, man. And as long as people doing this and that, the same stunts can continue to be pulled. And then, just like how I said, because me and the brothers had to go through the conversation. All right, cool. I want to sit down and go through Walulu Wal Marjan. Dakik, let me get it. Let's put it this way. Walulu Wal Marjan. This is all the hadiths that's collected by Bukhari and Muslim, which they refer to as basically the big joker. Because if it's over and above authentic if Muslim and Bukhari both collected it. So this is all the hadith that they collected and agree on as Sahih. Right? In this book, you have 1,906 hadith. 906 hadith. Okay? Now, like I said to my brother, point me to the person that sat with a scholar and has a teaching ijazah in this book, in this 2 sets of books, from the best people, the only people that we allowed to learn the deen from. Show me which one of them can teach me from this book that has a teaching ijazah in it, right? Where more than one scholar approved them to use it, or they went through the college of hadith in Mecca, Medina, Sudan, Mauritania, which Sudan is black, that's black Africa too, right? Gambia, any black Africa that has a university, Egypt, Kuwait. Show me which one of them has a degree where they learned this book and they could teach it to me proficiently. I'll wait. You know why I'll wait? Because you're not going to find one of them. But from the people who they hating on, you could go sit down and learn this book from proficiency from Mufti Muhammad. With proficiency, explanation, everything. Not somebody who just gonna pick it up and be like this, hadith number 1, read the Arabic and then might have somebody read the English and then just speak some jargon. Sheikh Fulan said this and this. What are your credentials, brothers? But you're gonna tell me I can't go learn this proficiently from somebody with the credentials? Well, I gotta sit around and wait on you who not gonna go to school or not gonna go sit with a scholar and learn it, but people call you Sheikh such and such? Now, that's cool if you don't want to learn nothing. If you don't want to learn nothing, over 1,000 hadiths I done went through with a person like this. We went through close to over 500 straight before we took a break. Explanation, everything. I mean, it took some time, but then we took a break for some months, then came back. Done been through over 1,000 hadiths with proficiency. I had to explain them back and everything. The only thing which I didn't have to do was memorize all of the isnad. Just the narrator, right? The hadith, the explanation, and then we'll go from there. For the sake of time. Which one of them could teach it to me, brother? Probably some people that they hating on. Probably some people who been declared Ahlul Bid'ah for absolutely no reason. Tell me what's wrong with that picture, brother. But I could sit down and teach you the sciences. These is the 4 qualifications and the criteria to declare somebody a non-Muslim. To take somebody out of the fold of Islam. You probably don't even know how to make ghusl. But let me teach you, without knowing your character, without knowing if you're going to go destroy somebody else. Let me teach you these 4 principles, the qawaids of taking somebody out of the fold of Islam. But we're not going to take you out of the fold of Islam for these particular reasons. Why not? Because these particular reasons we involved in. We involved in them. Something not wrong with that picture? You're going to sit up and say an individual who send the Prophet Masjid, y'all got to figure, he got a teaching spot in there. If he's qualified to teach in the Prophet Masjid, he's qualified to teach in any masjid in America, baby. So you got to go through different things and try to tear this person down. We'll never work with him. But you're going to go work with Lil Durk at a birthday party, prayer, peace, concert? Is Little Durk Salafi? Huh? Is Little Durk on the dawah and giving the Salafi dawah? No. Is he Muslim? Yes. And may Allah guide the brother to what's correct and allow him to continue on. But if anybody else, these people, because they went to a masjid and talked, they off it. But you could go to a Little Durk birthday party, prayer, peace, concert, and that's fine. People better wake up and realize, man. So let me wrap it up, man. Like I'm gonna show y'all, this is a step that I took. So it was at a particular time in my life, man, where I had a business, right? And I love looking at my life because I see how certain steps that I use, how I apply them in Islam, right? So I wanted to start a business. I didn't really know how. So they used to have these online universities. So it was a time when I used to love cooking. I wanted to be a chef, right? So I was working in restaurants. And they had these programs where you could go to school. And so they had this program, it was called Cooking and Catering. But it was equivalent, it was an accelerated degree, a diploma. It take you 2 years. So wallahi, what I did was I ordered I just paid for the whole entire course up front. And then they send you all your books, all your tests, everything. At this particular time, what you would do is you would have to get to the test part, you have to fill out the whole test, and then you would mail them in. I would hit everything, and I was sending in 5, 6, sometimes 7 tests every week. 2 years for this. I graduated the whole thing in close to 3 months. Because I read everything, I spare-balled it, sent it in, wallahi, graduated with a high honors degree. So when I wanted to start a business but didn't really know how, they had an online through when they started like the University of Phoenix and you could get these online degrees. They had one called Small Business Management because I went through and got the cooking and catering thing, right? Which the catering was how to run a business. So I go, they got Small Business Management, right? And it's accredited. So once I go to a bigger university, I can transfer those credits over. Small Business Management, 2 years to get the diploma. Wallahi, I did the exact same thing. Paid for the whole entire course, got all the books. Every week, I'm sending in 5, 6, 7 tests. Wallahi, you had to mail it in at this particular time. And then they grade it. Then when you're done, you get your diploma. And then they had, if you wanted to, when they graduate at the real school, then you could fly out there, you have your tickets, and you could go walk the stage, right? Just like the University of Phoenix and all them, this is when this stuff kind of first started. So what I learned from that, okay, cool, I'm finna start the business. I mentioned that because I took that same method and started doing the same thing with Islamic courses. But they was online where you had a teacher, but if I was familiar, I challenged all the tests. If the program was set up a certain type of way, right? Where I ain't got to sit through the classes, or like if I had a question, I could contact my teacher or whatever. So I did the same thing. So with the business, I wanted to start a hair thing. So what I did was I would go look at the stores and go to the back of the hair care products. And then I would look at the addresses and the 1-800 numbers and stuff, and I would write them down. And then I would go call them. Wallahi, I would call them to get a connect to get their products in my store. And then they would put me on game and show me, look, it'll be cheaper for you to go this because we really only sell, you got to be spending $150,000, right? You got to be spending no less than $150,000. You know, you got to be getting a truckload, a semi-load of products. But we wholesale to this place, and then they wholesale all the way down to a couple of $100. But they would put me on game about the products. So when I started reading books, this one right here is a book, basically a treasure of guidance for the Muslims, right? On striving to learn their religion. But it's a whole bunch of questions and answers by Sheikh Mukbil, right? One of my favorite scholars, Sheikh Mukbil is. Okay? So they put a lot of his Q&As and stuff and translated them and put them in a book. Well, in the back of the book, I'm looking for more the same way I did those products, right? So in the back of the book, they had a website. They still got it, but for some reason, they done fell off as far as the classes. So in this book, they had the al-wajibat, the obligatory matters, right? A step by Muhammad Abdul Wahab. Then they had Thalathul Usul, the 3 fundamental principles, right? But it links you to a website where you come take the class. And the website was called talib.com. Alright? So when I see that, and then another one, and see where you see where I got it highlighted in green, these is the classes that I signed up for, right? This is kind of where I got my start. Then they had Asul As-Sunnah by Imam Ahmed. Okay? So when you go to talib.com, you register, they let you know when the classes start. Then you have to come sit with the instructor, and then you order the book, which turned out to be this one. This was before they just started selling the book, and you were like, now you can get them on Amazon, all these other places. Back then you had to get them directly from the student site, right? And then you couldn't get the teacher's edition. Now this is to show you. Now this right here, there's homework, there's test, and then there's the final exam, which is hard. So this is showing the Ijazah thing. So, but in the back, even when you buy the back and you got the student ones, what they have in there is a certificate of completion. So when you pass the whole thing, they would fill this out and then they would mail it to you, right? When you filled out the whole thing. But you had to pass the whole thing from them, right? So this was one of the first type of academic books that I did, right? Well, I finished the whole thing, did all this, passed it. I ain't gonna say with ease, but after the first 2 lessons, I went to my same method. Let me go to the test first. The test and the homework, and do all of that from what's in my head. Then I'll read the material and see if what I said was right, because this is how the knowledge goes on. Because like right now, sometimes when people ask the question, they have to go find the book or they have to look it up. When the knowledge is already there and is accurate, you can act up on it. So I'm passing the test, I'm doing the homework and pass, and then I'll read the material. Very extremely beneficial book. Extremely beneficial book. By the time I got to lesson 7, that's how I did the rest of it. From lesson 8 up to 20 lessons. And this was in like 2014. 20 lessons from 8 to 20. I did the homework, and then whatever little small test that was attached, I did all that, and then I would read the material for each lesson. And I did one lesson every single night. Right? Very beneficial. You can learn a whole, and this is obligatory matters. You can learn so much about your deen from this. But I'm doing it with an actual teacher. I'm doing the homework and all that, so they grading it. You understand? But like I said, I would do all of that, and then I would read the material. But I don't know why they website. I don't know why he changed it off. But the thing is, you can still get this book though. Now they have a teacher's edition. The teacher edition has the answers in the back. But even the beauty of it is this. They had an actual, like right here, the Matin of Wajibat, right? And then it got by Abdul Stockfallah. Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? So, would you get your teacher's edition? The answers is in the back, but don't cheat yourself if a person wanted to get it. I'm talking about a wealth of knowledge, especially for a beginner Muslim. This is how I kind of started off in being tested and getting educated, getting these. So then, of course, with your Thalathul Usul, where, you know, and then I see what people, because you could get it where it's not set up with test and quiz. And I listen to people who be trying to teach it, because these is books done by Abdul Wahhab. Just the same, the actual Matin is in the back, and it's in all Arabic. So you can read the Arabic and all of that, right? This is the exact same way. So when you went through the actual courses with the teachers, then when you pass, they would send you. So technically, this would be a form of an Ijazah, that you completed it and this and that, right? But they have it filled out, their name, your date that you passed, and then they will mail it to you. Then you can laminate it, but it won't be on a piece of paper like this. It's like kind of cardboardish. But like this is, so then what they have, and then they had a class to where you could get people in your region, and then you could teach the book to them, and then you could fill out the certificate at the end and give it to them as a certificate of completion. Right? But even in the back, it leads you to even more courses. Very beautiful. So, like I said, some of your books in the back, but it was this book they wrote by Sheikh Mukbil, translated to Sheikh Mukbil, which led me to these courses. So after I did them, I ended up in my first university was by it's a brother from Philly, right? Right now he's working on his PhD in Sharia and fiqh, right? He's specializing in Shafi'i fiqh and jurisprudence. Basically, we just say jurisprudence. And he's working on his PhD right now in Al-Azhar University in Egypt. So when I went to his university, but I had to start with the Arabic and Quran. So I'm starting with Arabic and Quran, and my Arabic teacher took a liking to me, right? And wallahi, he used to talk to me about, like, you not like the other black Americans. Like, although he was almost my exact same color, and he was telling me about the difficulties that he had with not just him, but the teachers have with black students. But they actual teachers in Azhar University. These aren't people who just live in Egypt who know some Arabic as a Quran and they teaching. These actual teachers in Azhar Universities. Diplomas, PhDs in Islamic studies and all of this. So he took a liking to me. Whatever was going on with Abdul Latif and some things started to break in the business. So he plugged me with another professor from the university because he took a liking to me and seeing like, okay, you not like some of these other black Americans. You know, like one dude, like he telling me a story about at the actual, they had a Marquez, where he also taught at the Marquez on like outside of the school hours. So like the Americans who can't come, because to get in Azhar University, you had to have like a high school diploma. Then of course you got to pass an Arabic part to get in to learn the science. So some people like Americans who was coming to learn the Arabic at the Marquez, he's telling me about an American from Philly, an American from New Jersey, arguing and fighting in the class, getting ready to step outside and really fight. But guess what their argument was over? Whose Salafiyah is the best between Philly and Jersey? And they in there finna really fight. They can't break it up, but this is what they used to dealing with from black Americans. And then they sitting up like, these dudes fighting over who Salafi the best. They must don't understand what Salafiyah is. And I can say this, at the time, I didn't truly understand what Salafiyah is. That's why I know the difference, and that's why I'm able to say what I say, because I know people had an understanding that I used to have. And my understanding came from listening to the misunderstanding that some of these brothers still have, that was their teachers and still their teachers. And keep in mind, this around 2014 and 15. Matter of fact, I entered the Arabic stuff in 2013, right? But since I was doing Arabic and I had to get through the Arabic and stuff to get into a science, so in 2014 I ended up doing these books. That's when they came out, right? 2014. So I was in the Arabic at 2013. So anyway, but he seen that I was different. He was like, he telling me like, man, you not like them. And then, he was telling me about different parts to study in Africa. Wallahi, they would invite me to come to Egypt, stay in their home, had wife and kids and stuff in there. Wallahi, they just took a liking to me and seen. So like so when I switched to the other brother, he had a PhD in Islamic studies, right? And then he also had a teaching Ijazah in all 10 qirats, the Quran. Beautiful brother, right? And he had authored like some books. He was a lecturer, the one he put me on to. So when I switch over to him, he seen all the books of hadith I had on my shelf. So we get to talking about hadith. So now me and him, he ended up starting to teach me hadith. You understand? So we would do Arabic for a certain amount of time. Then we would do hadith for a certain amount of time and some Islamic history, because he had a degree, he had a PhD in Islamic studies. And then we would recite the Quran, or we would start with the Quran reciting to get that little mode in, and then we would start classes. So my point is, once they took a liking to me and put me on, they just kept putting me on to other, like, okay, cool, you done got through this, now you want to move over to this. My cousin or this person, he's in Medina, he knows a person who's there, they got a master in this, and then they plug me in, and these be real people with, wallahi, they got real degrees. Like, it's not no plan, it's not no joke, they high honor. And that's just basically how it all started falling in line for me. And when I see some of the individuals that I ran around with and was super duper cool with, like if I went to Philly, I would be around them. Like some of the brothers, the first time I walked in Germantown Masjid with, I was with them. And to see in 2025, they still the exact same way that they was in 2014, 2013, 2012. Some of them I actually met in 2011. Still, level of Islam is still on the exact same level. You can't discuss no science with them. You could get and try to do certain little books. Like you may be able to discuss like the Sunnah of Imam Ahmed, which is a small book, and that used to be their thing. I went through the whole course with a teacher on an academic level. I had to do homework, I had to pass tests, and a final exam to get the certificate for it. With a real teacher, qualified, Salafi, and you know he's Salafi because he's teaching from Abdul Wahab books, graduate, teaching from an academic level from where they learned it in the university or from the scholars. Because sometimes in the university, you had to go sit with another scholar to learn certain side books because the university be focused on, depending on your science, on other things, right? So when I hear them trying to explain the book, it just be like, they making up stuff. I ain't gonna say everybody, but when you went through a class, you can tell the difference. And so like I say, they be able to talk about certain little things, you know, certain ahkams, the pillars of salat and little stuff like that. But when you really want to jump down and start talking about evaluating hadiths, evaluating fiqh, this, that, and the third, they not even close. Arabic ain't even changed. They might know another phrase or two. And I'm going to say this, because when you went through the process, a sister who I seen go through the education process, they went through a whole Aqidah class that, wallahi, a PhD in Hadith graduate, the Sheikh designed this whole Aqidah class, right? So like when I start with people, I give them this Aqidah class, right? So I get in my Aqidah class, they speedball through it. So I see that they serious. So I start working with them, fluent with the Arabic. Just yesterday, right? But we discussed it that we was gonna start Saturday. So before Saturday, they sent me some pictures or whatever of their method of how they break down. Next little method. But I can see how it's going to affect them a little bit. So when we hit class Saturday, right, I'm speedballing them and I'm pushing them past that comfort zone of that cushion of their method, right? Then we went ahead and had class today, and then I push them, and then they get through and don't even really have to use that method. Because instead of something that I knew they looked at, they might have looked at it and flipped through it a little bit, but I switched them to something different. And it could have been something else, because I'm not looking at them, but I see the improvement from one day to the next day, right? With the method that I'm pushing them through to. So my point is to say, when you've been through the process and through several different processes, you know the difference between a class. And wallahi, this is a true story. You know the difference between the class. You know the difference between actual teaching and talking. And the way that I'm teaching them, it's not treated like I'm a teacher, you're a student. I'm doing it through regular conversations and in a way that's comfortable, so that they don't feel uncomfortable and nervous. But I can look at the process and see how they progressing. They stick to this. We gonna be talking in no time. They Arabic gonna be like this, inshallah ta'ala, in no time. And this is the beauty of it. They really still working on Aleph Ba Ta. But right now, already got some few sentences and some different things in, and reading and translating on a very small level already. 2 classes. And I'm saying that to say, brother, from 2012 to 2015, you're around the best people that can teach Islam. You can't learn from nobody but them And I'm dealing with somebody who, alhamdulillah, through the permission of Allah, and me working with him, who Arabic got better from Saturday to Sunday, and your Arabic ain't changed a lick from 2012, 2013, 2000, all the way up to 2025. But you around the best people to ever do it. Now, easy to say, man, but maybe the brother just a poor student. Maybe he don't apply himself. I used to see him in class, baby. And some of the best people that ever done it, I used to listen to them make mistakes in the Arabic. So sometimes people be poor students because they might have a poor teacher, baby. You understand? Sometimes. But when you don't know, you just don't know, man. And this is the reality of education, man. You know, like the brother, I'm finna get off here. The brother made an interesting point by saying, you know, we should start going to like the black parts of Africa, like the Gambias, and, you know, which is cool, right? I've been to Tanzania, right? Dar es Salaam, Muslim country, which some people don't want to accept this. I'm not saying over Arab and this and that, because some people think because you going to the university in Medina and it's in Arabia, that don't mean that your teacher is an Arab. They don't realize, they think every single scholar that's over there, the scholar that's over there might be from Ethiopia. You see what I'm saying? But they, you know, so all I'm saying is this: when you go there, when you don't understand the university route, I'm talking about for knowledge. Now, like just moving there to live around Muslims, black Africa is rough on black Americans. Not necessarily the people, just the living. Even when you might be in what they starting to look like as luxury homes, but your lights might go off 8, 9 times. All your power might be off for 6, 7 hours. You chill and do something, all the power go off for an hour. Come back on 30 minutes, then it go back off for 6 hours. And like Ghana, a lot of the countries. You know what I'm saying? And then it's just it's something that need to be investigated. But like if you going for education, I'm just gonna be real. Just because it's a black area that's heavily populated with Muslims, it doesn't mean that the scholarship is there. It doesn't. And especially when you don't have that mindset of just because you in Medina or Riyadh or Jeddah or Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia, that doesn't mean you learning from an Arab. And then what they don't realize, and you go to Sudan or you go to some of these African countries that's black African, when they teaching you Islam, they're going to be teaching you what you're going to consider to be Arab Islam. They're going to be teaching you the science of hadith. Right? They're not going to be teaching no War of Deen stuff. They're not going to be teaching no Noble Drew Ali stuff. They're not going to be teaching no Habashi stuff. Now, they might be teaching a particular madhab, like the Maliki madhab, but Imam Malik was an Arab. Just because a lot of black people take it on doesn't make it a black madhab. That's still what y'all would consider to be Arab stuff. Imam Malik was an Arab. He was from Medina. So sometimes, we just confused, man. We discombobulated. We discombobulated, man. As the African American, man, we all over the place with it. The ones who should be teaching, slandered. The ones who need to sit down and shut up and get in the classroom is the best teachers to ever teach. But that's what it say, man. the deen is basically going to be flipped upside down. It's going to be strange. And that's what it say. When you see people in positions that shouldn't have it, as opposed to the people who should have it, look for the hour. Look for the hour. Get into the hadiths and start to see that. So when you start seeing it, you be like, wow. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? And to keep it 100, like sometimes some of these people, good dynamic speakers, beautiful speakers, really good at putting some words together. And then when you sitting in a classroom and you still listening to them and you in a classroom, but they are not. You outgrow them. And then once you continue to outgrow them, you can sit back and be like, they starting to run out of stuff to talk about. Because they're not continuing their education. So you might sit up and see them doing a conference talking about, we're going to have a whole 3-day lecture conference about how the Nation of Islam ain't Muslims. Again? Again? To the same group? That's a waste of time. First and foremost, don't nobody think the Nation of Islam is real Muslims to begin with. If they thought they was real Muslim, they would have went and joined the Nation of Islam and not came and took their Shahada. Yeah, come to the conference again. We're just going to have a different person talk about how the Nation of Islam is the nation of Kufr. Duh. Can you teach us Walulu wal Marjan? Let's take those 3 days up and do Walulu wal Marjan. Can we do that? Oh, see, the Nation of Islam, they think Far Muhammad is Allah, but he's not. Duh. Can we move on to the book of this and that? No, we're going to sit here and learn for 3 days, 4 days, whole conference about how the Nation of Islam is kafirs. Y'all running out of stuff to talk about, baby. Who stepped foot in the masjid don't know that? Who took their shahada, who been Muslim 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, don't know that? Who don't know that? Can we learn? Can we learn a whole section out of the Sunan of Ibn Dawud with proper explanation? Nope. You know why? You can't teach it. That's why. But people who don't know no better don't know no better. Oh man, that was beautiful, man. The brother said the Nation of Islam think Far Muhammad Allah, but he's not. You didn't know that before he said it? Well, it was the way he said it, man. It's the Salafis. While them Asheries sitting over there, putting belt on y'all still. Having a field day with y'all, and y'all don't say a single word. You still want to run around talking about this one and that one and the Nation of Islam, while them Asheries brothers over there teaching Maliki fiqh, teaching all type of stuff, stealing members, marrying y'all girls and everything. Man, them brothers got 300, 400 sisters on a waiting list over there. Man, let's throw some all white and throw a little cafe on with a sharp crease on it and go over there with our beard out like this. Salam alaikum, Sheikh. And leave with their women. They ain't gonna, and then marry their girls. Which is what is really happening, bruh. I'm telling y'all, man. And I be sitting back like this. And then, like I say, I would lie. I know some Salafi sisters that married them brothers, man. And that sister, man, be over there with that brother, be like, man, I done learned more with this brother in 2 months than I done learned in 10 years with them brothers. I sit down and say, alhamdulillah. But, some of that stuff you think about Allah. But all that other stuff up out of there, they get busy. It just is some of the things they say about Allah is just, but they get busy on everything else. Y'all said, yeah, let's talk about how the Nation of Islam is kafirs. Everybody, Yeah, straight. When you hear the sheikh got down. He said, Flora Muhammad ain't Allah. While the master, he's over there teaching the adcams and the pillars of Fard Kifaya and Fardo Ain. You know what I'm saying? They over there going through 75 points of Fardo Kifaya. I'm trying to learn all my Fardo Kifayas. Y'all cats sitting up over there talking about a whole conference about the Nation of Islam. Let me give you the 4 most important principles on how to take Muslims out of the fold of Islam. For what, brother? These brothers don't need to be learning that. Anyway, man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.